navigator through the Sickle Cell Medical Advocacy Organization and a certified life coach and activities consultant in geriatric care. Committed to giving a voice to the underserved and excluded. He focuses on advocacy in both geriatric care and the sickle cell. He founded On the Air Sickle in 2022 as both a podcast and a nonprofit organization, where its mission is to air the good, bad, and ugly in the name of awareness and kindness. In 2025, he was appointed as an advisor to the newly launched Iowa Hospital Sickle Cell Patient Family Advisory Council. Beyond his professional work, Amar is the voting president to Sharday Donald, who serves as president of the On the Air Sickle Board of Directors. He is also a proud father of 2 children, and his dedication to advocacy, storytelling, and systemic change continues to impact communities worldwide. He is really honored to have Amar with us today for us to keep up with us.
Can everybody hear me? Okay. All right, how's everybody doing? That was whack. How's everybody doing? There you go, there you go. All right, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to speak. This is definitely this is a special moment for me for several reasons, and you'll hear that in the speech that I'm going to present to you all. I want to give a special shout out to my family. They're wearing on their sickle hoodies. My mother is in the audience, my mom-in-law, my sister-in-law, my brother, and of course my wife. Just thank you, yes, please. For support. We organize human minutes. All right. I want to say thank you all again. Thank you for this moment, not just to speak, but more importantly, to be heard. In this room, among patients, physicians, social workers, caregivers, and parents, we don't just share information, we share truth. And often that truth is heavy. It doesn't always scream for attention. Sometimes it whispers in our quiet moments, settles in our muscles, and makes a home in our bodies in silence. Chronic illness affects over 133 million Americans. But studies show that men are likely to report emotional distress less likely to seek help, and more likely to die prematurely from preventable conditions. For Black men, in particular, the weight is multiplied by history, by culture, by stigma, and by silence. And yet so many of us suffer silently, not because we want to, but because we've been conditioned to. We've been told that vulnerability is a threat to our masculinity, that to survive, we must suppress. So when we talk about the weight we carry, we're not just talking about symptoms, we're talking about survival. We're talking about the silent heaviness that lives inside our bones, our thoughts, our schedules, our relationships. We're talking about the pressure to show up when our bodies want to lie down, the pressure to leave when we haven't even had space to heal. Imagine for a moment a man who's lived most of his life behind hospital walls, not because he works there, but because his pain keeps sending him back. Now, imagine that same man stepping onto a stage, not to receive treatment, but to receive applause. Applause not for what he's done, but for the fact that he's still standing, still here, still choosing life. Imagine a young boy told he wouldn't live past 18, who grew up to build an organization that now educates, advocates, and fights for others living with the same disease. He didn't just beat the odds. He became the reason others believe they can too. That's not just survival. That's transformation. These aren't hypotheticals. These are men among us. Men with sickle cell who carry the same weight we do, but turn it into legacy. These are warriors who redefine what survival looks like. These are brothers who didn't stop at breath, but they pushed toward purpose. One became a musician, using his lyrics to express the pain doctors couldn't see. One became a father who never let his children see his hospital bed, only his arms outstretched when he came home. One became a community leader, holding forums, fundraisers, and giving voice to the voiceless. And one is standing before you today. The title of this keynote is The Weight We Carry. And when I say we, I mean every individual living with sickle cell disease. But I also mean every man. I also mean every caregiver, every advocate carrying the weight of not only their role, but the disease itself. It's not just the pain in our joints, it's the fatigue in our limbs. It's the pressure in our hearts, the burdens on our minds, the silence we've been trained to survive in. We carry the weight of expectation to be strong, to be steady, to show up no matter what. Even when fatigue steals our breath and pain becomes the silence in the room, we're still expected to stand tall. And many of us do, but it comes at a cost. A 2020 study from the American Psychological Association reported that men often associate seeking help with weakness, especially when living with a chronic illness. This internalized pressure leads to higher rates of depression and anxiety, undiagnosed and untreated. This isn't just a mental health statistic, it's the emotional mirror many of us avoid. We don't talk about it, but it shows up in our relationships, in our fatigue, in how we disappear without explanation. And here's the thing, that silence becomes a second sentence, because we're not just battling what's happening on the inside of our body, we're also battling what we've been taught about manhood, vulnerability, and emotional expression. We've been told to tough it out, man up, push through. But how do you push through when the pain isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's generational? We carry the weight of invisibility, On the outside, we might look fine, but inside, we're fighting battles most will never see. And society, at times, expects us to keep it that way, to suffer quietly, to not disrupt the comfort of others. We carry the weight of fear, not just of pain or crisis, but of being seen as weak, fear of losing jobs, losing respect, losing opportunities, losing relationships, simply because we've admitted we're struggling. That fear is real, and it keeps many of us silent. And then there's the weight we carry that isn't always medical, but mental, emotional, and visible weight. The thoughts that creep in at 3 a.m., the questions we don't speak out loud. Will this ever get better? Does anyone even see me? Will I make it through this one? There are moments where I, personally, have questioned if I can keep going. Times I didn't trust myself to hold the weight one more day. Moments when my thoughts scared me more than my pain ever could, not because I wanted to fall, but because I didn't know how I could keep standing. But I did. And because you are here today, you did also. My journey is layered, and my testimony didn't begin here at the podium. It began in that time of silence that only hospitals know. In that kind of pain that doesn't announce itself, it settles quiet until it takes over. In 2022, I tested positive for COVID-19. And for many, that diagnosis came with anxiety, fatigue, and inconvenience. But for someone living with sickle cell, COVID was a direct threat to my life. It wasn't just a virus, it was a trigger, a magnifier, a danger that turned a chronic condition into a crisis. COVID didn't just give me a fever, it gave me fear. It didn't just cause symptoms, it created a situation where my body began to shut down. My hemoglobin started to drop rapidly, critically, quiet. And I was alone. Hospital protocols at that time meant no visitors, no family, no one at the bedside to advocate when I was too tired to fight. So I had to speak for myself. And at that time, I remember calling my wife and saying, I need help. The doctors, I told the doctors that if my hemoglobin drops to 7, I need a transfusion. I knew my body. I wasn't guessing. I wasn't panicking. I was informed. I was clear. I was calm, but I was dismissed. 6.8. Please. I need a transfusion. No, they said, we're going to wait until it hits 6.5. 6.3. Is there a plan? We're checking to see if there's an order in place. 5.7. Please, I just need blood. 5.5. 5.4. 5.3. And at that moment, I knew my voice didn't matter. And that all I had left in me was gone. According to multiple studies, Black patients are significantly less likely to receive pain medication or emergency intervention compared to white patients with the same symptoms. This bias has been well documented in sickle cell care, where many are assumed to be exaggerating pain or drug seeking rather than surviving. This isn't speculation, it's lived experience. We walk into ERs not as people in pain, but as suspects. our credibility questioned, our pride diminished. That kind of dismissal leaves wounds that medicine can't reach. That night nearly broke, but it also built something in me. That was the moment on the air signal was born. Not of inspiration, but out of desperation, out of grief, out of being ignored. I didn't start on the air signal because I had a platform. I started it because I was tired of being silent. I needed the space to speak the truth, not just mine, but ours. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The medical trauma, the faith wrestling, the family strain, the quiet resilience. I needed others to hear what wasn't being said in doctor's notes or discharge papers. Because when you nearly die from something preventable and no one hears you, it changes you. It taught me something loud and clear that if we don't tell our own stories, they'll either be rewritten or erased. Storytelling and advocacy has been proven to increase funding, drive policy change, and shift public perception. When patients become narrators, not just case studies, change follows. This is why I speak. This is why I founded On the Air Signal, because we are not statistics. We are stories. And when told truthfully, our stories become weapons against indifference. I used to think that my story started with COVID, but the truth is, I've been in a fight since birth. The kind of fight that doesn't come with gloves or crowds, just quiet battles in hospital rooms, in school hallways, in the corners of my mind. I had my first sickle cell crisis before I could even form sentences, around 8 or 9 months old. And from that point on, my life was shaped by what my body could and couldn't do. Pain wasn't new to me. It was normal. It was expected, and I owned it as mine. At 2 years old, I had my spleen removed. At 5, I had a stroke that came with seizures. And I'll be honest, that stroke didn't just interrupt my life, it almost ended it. My mom was told I wouldn't live to see 15. Children with sickle cell anemia are at high risk for stroke, up to 11% by age 20, if not on preventative care. Strokes are a leading cause of disability in pediatric sickle cell patients. This is why early intervention matters. Why screenings, specialists, and school advocacy are not luxuries, they're lifelines. And for many of us, it's the difference between developmental and disability. From age 5 to about 14, I had to stick myself with needles. I wasn't experimenting, I was surviving. I sat with a pump every night to help manage my iron overload, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Because my mom was working nights and she was a single parent, trying to keep us fed and clothed. Because my body couldn't fight this disease alone. Children's Hospital. Children's Hospital became a second home. I knew the hallways. I knew the nurses. I knew which machines made which noises. I wasn't, it wasn't a place I visited, it was a place where I grew up. There's one birthday that I'll never forget. I was getting ready for school, just a regular fall morning. My mom, usually up and pushing me to move faster, was still lying in bed with tears in her eyes. Take your time. Yeah. Um, there's one birthday I'll never forget. I was getting to school, just a regular fall morning. My mom, usually up and pushing me to move faster, was still lying in bed, with tears in her eyes. And I didn't understand at first. And then she told me that you weren't supposed to live to see this day. But God saw it different. And that stuck with me. Because on days when I didn't think I could go on, I remembered that. I remembered that I was never supposed to be here, and yet I was. In 2013, I had my gallbladder removed. That same year, I got married, and I say that with careful clarity, because unfortunately, that marriage was not filled with all beauty. It was filled with hardship. There were moments of deep pain, not just physical, but emotional and mental. I often had to search for strength on the good days just to stay. The good in that chapter came mostly through one role I was told that I would never be able to hold, being a father. From that marriage came two sons, and the title, Father, gave me a kind of fuel that pain could not take away. I showed up for them. I kept pushing because of them. And though that household was hard, fatherhood became the lifeline. Hospital visits didn't stop just because I had a wet ring or a mortgage to pay. I kept fighting, working three jobs, providing for that family, and showing up as best I could while my body constantly reminded me of its limits. And in 2018, that marriage ended. In 2019, something changed. I met a woman who would change my life in ways I never knew I needed. This woman will become the one I call my wife, my friend, my love, my good thing. All right. She didn't just ask about my pain, she studied it. She didn't pity me, she partnered with me. Her name is Chardonnay. And her entrance into my life didn't erase the pain, but it did shift the weight. Baby, I don't know where you are. There you are. I'm so grateful for you. You didn't save me, you saw me. And that mattered more than medicine ever could. I'm so grateful for your sacrifice and how you have kept me even when I didn't know how to keep it. So I love you. When you live with a disease like sickle cell, start to believe that love will always come with a cost, that no one will stay when symptoms show, that your body's betrayal will eventually scare people off. So you brace for that. You prepare for it. But Chardonnay disrupted that cycle. She learned what foods made my body crash and helped change how I ate. She encouraged me to pursue consistent, high-quality medical care instead of emergency-only responses. She didn't just want me out of the hospital. She wanted me whole. According to Johns Hopkins, lifestyle changes, including nutrition, hydration, and preventative care, can reduce the frequency and severity of sickle cell crisis. But consistent support is often the missing ingredient. But support isn't just medical, it's personal, it's relational. It's the difference between surviving and thriving. Because even the best care plan is nothing if you're doing it alone. For the first time in years, I had someone who didn't panic when I was in pain. She prepared. She asked questions. She took notes. She advocated for me. She found better doctors and helped me build a better system. And slowly, for the first time since childhood, I began to feel like my life wasn't just about surviving. And still, the weight didn't disappear. There were moments when my emotions became too much. Moments I didn't have the words. Moments I was so overwhelmed by pain, responsibility, past trauma, and fear that it all boiled over. There was one night, this is not a metaphor, this is not a moment that I'm using just for storytelling, but a real night where I stood at the edge recently. Unlike in the hospital, I couldn't speak calmly. I shouted with rage and anger. I didn't just cry screams. I cried rivers of emotional pain and mental strain. And I simply couldn't hold it together, almost damaging the one who fought so hard to help me. The weight became too much. So, and even when I was ready to fall and I was spiraling out, she remained and fought with me still, even though I thought she was fighting against me. She held me. Not with a lecture, not with scripture, not with a solution. My wife held me physically, emotionally, spiritually. She became a mirror in that moment, reminding me who I was, why I was still here, what we had already survived. She didn't hold me to fix me, she held me to anchor me. That moment didn't erase my depression, but it reminded me I wasn't alone. Nearly 30% of adults with chronic pain conditions also suffer from depression. In sickle cell patients, this number is believed to be even higher, though often underreported. We're told to be strong, but strength isn't silence, it's survival. It's waking up every day with invisible wounds and still choosing to keep going. Depression doesn't make us weak, hiding it does. And with her help and with renewed purpose, I now have been out of the hospital for over 3 years. I now sit on the board of a patient and family advisory council as a member of a medical institution that actually hears me, sees me, and works with me, unlike the one that once refused me. I lead trainings, I speak, I mentor, I build, and I breathe. not because everything is perfect, but because I've learned that healing isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of support. They say if you're surviving something, you owe it to someone else. I didn't always believe that, not until survival became my daily story. I didn't start on the air signals because I wanted a podcast. I started it because I was tired of yelling in silence. I needed somewhere to take the weight I was carrying, not just in my bones, but in my soul. And I needed a space where other warriors could do the same. On the air signal became a microphone for stories that were being muted, a safe space to speak that had long been swallowed, a table built for patience, not just for the providers. It was never built on likes or downloads. It was about letting the world hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, because pretending we're fine never saved anybody. But truth breaks chains. Through On the Air Signal, I've met people whose stories sound like mine. People who were told they've never lived long enough to love, to lead, to dream. And yet, they're doing all of that while still managing their pain. Sickle cell disease affects more than 100,000 Americans, and globally, over 300,000 infants are born with it each year. Yet in the United States, research funding for sickle cell disease is still significantly lower than for diseases with far fewer cases. This isn't just a health crisis, it's a justice issue. Because research follows funding, and funding follows visibility. The less we're seen, the less we're served. That's why the platform matters. That's why advocacy isn't optional, it's urgent. But let me be clear, this speech, this story, this moment isn't just about sickle cell. It's about the weight we carry when we're expected to perform through pain. It's about the weight we carry when our stories are dismissed or reduced to statistics. The weight we carry as men, especially Black men, to be strong, silent, and self-sufficient even when we're breaking inside. It's also about the promise that we make when we survive, that we won't let others walk alone, that we'll reach back, speak up, show up, that we'll use our scars to build bridges, not walls. And there's more. There's a difference between weight, WEIGHT, and weight, WAIT. One crushes you, the other holds you in suspense. One bends your knees, the other tests your patience. But sometimes we carry both. The weight of responsibility and the weight for healing. The weight of silence and the weight for answers. The weight of being a man and the weight to be seen as more than just strong. We carry the weight, we endure the weight, and somehow we're still standing. To the men in this room, I see you. You may not cry in public, you may not always have the words, but the weight you carry is real. It's, it's valid, and it's not weakness. It's evidence that you haven't quit. To the professionals, the caregivers, and our allies, thank you for lifting what you don't always understand. Thank you for choosing presence over pity, for seeing more than a chart, for fighting with us, not just for us. To the partners who stay, who sit through the silence, who learn alongside us, thank you for not leaving when it got too heavy. You are part of the healing. And to the warriors those diagnosed, dismissed, delayed, and determined this moment is for you. We carry pain, yes, but we also carry purpose. We carry legacy. We carry each other. There is a weight that crushes and a weight that crowns. We were never meant to carry it alone. But if we must carry it, let's carry this together. Because the truth is, when we carry truth, we also carry hope. If they only knew, if they only knew how much strength it takes to walk with pain and not complain. If they only knew how many times we've smiled through nausea, through work, through fatigue, laughed through grief. If they only knew what it feels like to be called dramatic when your bones feel like glass. If they only knew how many dreams we pause to manage a body in crisis. If they only knew how often we pray, not for healing, but just for understanding. If they only knew how much courage it takes to stay alive, to stay hopeful, to stay kind, then maybe they stop asking, what does it, why does he seem so distant? And start asking, what is he carrying? Because if they only knew, really knew, they'd never use the word weak again. Thank you. I wanted to create this slide because I want you all to be able to see it directly. The difference between weights versus weight. And before I leave, I want to say thank you. These are a few of the resources that I use here. Also, if you're looking for a resource, there's material that, of course, is directly rooted to sickle cell, but there's one in particular that I want to draw attention to. Shift Humanity. This is by a woman who is passionate about change. She's passionate about influence. She's passionate about impact. She's in the audience today. Her name is Grayson Sorrell, and I'm proud to be her brother-in-law. I encourage everyone to get a copy of her book coming out soon. Please go to graysonsorrell.com. It'll take you straight to her Shift Humanity page. And her slogan is navigating your inner world to generate positive impact. Thank you all again for this time, and may God bless you.